All right, and we're back. So I've selected 3 different kicks, and right now I have them layered. The kick that I started out with actually is gone now, and I've chosen 3 new kicks. So I'm just going to walk you through why I chose each one right now. This one, pretty self-explanatory. It's just a nice bottom end. Got good sub content. Then I took this one. You listen to it by itself. It's got some nice high end, and actually I have it high passed here because it had a bunch of sub content as well, and without it you can hear how the kicks will clash together. So it just kind of tightens up the low end there. And then this final one, just for a little bit more attack, and it's got a little bit of mid-range character that I liked. And I've EQ'd out the bottom, and I've taken down a little bit of the highs as well. Now that I have my kicks selected, what I want to do actually is put them all in the same drum rack, so I don't have 3 tracks to work with here. So I'm going to... Very nice kick. Drag that into there. This one was in here, I believe. 84. Then I'm just going to take the EQ for each one and put it into the drum rack for each sample. Now each one has its own EQ. So you can see that changes as I click the samples. And then what I want to do is just make sure I've preserved the same volume ratio. So this one is the same as the low end. This one's a little quieter. So I'm going to delete these now. And go back into here and just turn this one down a little bit in the volume. Okay. I'm going to go into my clip and just copy this for each kick. Now it should be the same. Alright, success. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to now render these 3 kicks as one audio sample so that it's a lot easier to work with. Now, one problem that you can run into when you're committing to a sample like this is later on, if you feel like one of the layers is a little too loud, you're not going to be able to edit them after the fact. So what I like to do is just create a new save file anytime I do something like this. So I'll just save as Losing You Remix 2. That way, if I ever want to go back, I can just take the 3 samples from the previous file.
And does Ableton autosave?
Yeah.
Okay. But the benefit of doing it this way is that you can tell exactly at which point of the process you are at in the project.
Sometimes I actually comment on the file name itself, what I did, and why I changed the file. Because I can end up with as many as like 15 different save files.
Yeah, that's actually a very good idea.
But it's saved my ass a couple times, so it's definitely worth it. So now I'm just going to cut this out, delete these, and I'm going to go freeze track, and then flatten. And that's just going to give me the audio. So now we have all 3 samples in one file.
That's cool. Bust it or anything. Just...
Nope. Super quick. And now that I know which kick I want to use, and I've got that all set, now I like to work with audio, just because I like to see what's going on with my audio. And you can do a lot of tricks too, like reversing the samples, and because I don't want to create a million tracks just for, you know, one little reversed kick, little stuff like that. So after I've committed, I like to work with audio. So now I'll just drag these in. Oh, yeah, that's gonna have to change. Okay, just duplicate that a couple times. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is get some hi-hats going on here. So create another track, and when it comes to hi-hats, I like to use more realistic sounding hi-hats, especially in drum and bass. I feel like it can get really cheesy if you use just the cliched dance sample.
You have to have,
you know, that
element.
techno sounding hi-hat, yeah. So I've got a bunch of real sounding hi-hats in my hats folder. I normally like to use this because it's got a bunch of different samples in one loop, and I can just kind of cut them out. Make sure that it's not warped though. If you ever load in a new file and it sounds funky right off the bat and you don't know why, it's probably because it's warped. Okay, what else we got? Get that. Little open hi-hat right there. Maybe get another variation on the open. Okay, now I'll just tidy these up a little bit. I'm holding Alt right now so that I can bypass the grid when I drag that. Okay, that's the beginning.
You just chop out as much as you possibly can so you don't have like extra stuff.
Yeah, well, particularly at the beginning of the sample, so that the attack happens right when I think it does, you know? And then if it sounds like it's getting cut off, that sounds like it's getting cut off, so I'll drag it out a little bit. See, hear the difference? And that can be fixed too with reverb, if you add a reverb after the fact. So depending on what I want to do with it. Alright, now we have a bunch of hi-hats.
It also adds a level of like dynamic to it. Like if you have some hi-hats that do that and others that have the tail end. So you have like elements of like tight and then
well, yeah, I mean, it also depends what sound you're going for. It can sound really cool if you have choppy samples that sound like they're cut off. Depends if you're going for an authentic sound or, you know, a more processed sound. Okay, so now let's see what we can write in here. And I may not even use this pattern, but I like to just start out with a basic pattern so that I can get my samples in order and figure out what I want to use. And then I'll change the pattern entirely most of the time. duplicate. Maybe try an open hi-hat here. We'll duplicate that again, and maybe put the other hi-hat here. Okay, so I'll probably not actually use this pattern, but writing that in, now I know for sure that this hi-hat kind of works with the other samples I have, and it sounds good. So that's just a basic thing I like to get going. So now I have the 3 basics of the drum beat. What I want to do now is look through my samples, and I've got a bunch of breaks, and I want to get maybe some break samples in there so that it sounds a little bit more like a real drum and bass beat. A couple of the packs that I would recommend is the Total Science loop pack. That one's got a lot of really good things, really good layers that you can put over an already existing drum beat, you know, not just like full breaks, so it doesn't clash. And the Loop Master's Critical DMB. I like both of those a lot. I like this last one. So right off the bat, I'll take out the low end. Ah, yes. Okay, that's sounding a lot more like an authentic drum and bass sound. And I can even chop this up and edit it if I don't want the snare sample. Or if I like them but think they're just coming through a little bit too much, you can just cut that, bring down the gain a little bit. Duplicate that. Okay, now one thing I'm noticing is that this snare needs a layer or something over it because now it's starting to fall behind the rest of the drums. It sounds good, but it needs to cover more of the spectrum. So I'm going to go ahead and find another sample, and then we'll be back.